I heard about the script from my agent that said he'd read a script that was one of the best things he's read. And he said it was by Goddard, and I'd obviously worked with Drew before and was a huge fan, and said, where is it? Let me see it. And eventually it got sent to me, and I read it, and it was one of the best things I'd ever read as well. It was fresh, it was unique, it was full of drama, full of sinister sort of humor, but wildly sort of complex and layered, and yeah, unlike anything I'd ever read before. Yeah, this cast was incredible. Every one of them I'd either heard about and heard such wonderful things, or had seen their work and was such a fan. And everybody was such an integral piece of this puzzle. And if one person dropped the ball or didn't show up 110%, it wasn't going to work. And I'm so thankful that everybody was so willing to give it their all. And it was one of the most collaborative sets I've been on, and most enjoyable sets I've been on, and creatively freeing as well. There was such exploration within all of our characters, and we were allowed to kind of continue to search and find different elements and different parts to these people. It's always very intimidating to walk onto a set with someone like that, and but you instantly kind of just sucked into the zone and absorbed within the scene because of what they're doing and how present they are. They kind of their energy or his talent, forces you to be 100% in the moment and react and act with him. So it's a pretty special thing, and very few people are able to do that, I think. I just wanted there to be a unpredictability to him, and him to be incredibly visceral and responsive to his surroundings. Although he's coming in so kind of very showy and performance-esque, he also is. He doesn't miss a beat. He's quite detail-oriented, and if someone has a sort of glance or a flicker or a movement or something, he's like, "Hang on, what was that?" He felt like a sort of snake to me almost. I wanted there to be a sort of hypnotic sort of tone to him in one way, but also just ready to kind of strike whenever he felt threatened or whenever he needed to stamp his authority. I wanted everything to feel foreign, from what I'd done before, but I was surprised how sort of easily it came then, and I think that's due to having such an incredible script that says you can't go anywhere else but this arena. You've got to sort of roll the dice and take that kind of risk, and yeah, it was just very satisfying.
It's rather rare that I read a script and it pops. When I say pop, I mean, wow, this is nothing I've ever seen before. This is the kind of movie I like to see, And that was certainly my reaction on this film. And to find out that the writer, Drew Goddard, is also directing it, that was a big plus. When you've got the writer who's the director as well, then you've got the goods when you're doing your work. You've got the source material. This is where all those ideas came from. And Drew really came up with a great idea for a movie. And then to be able to execute it as well as he has is really thrilling. When you got a movie like this one that's filled with surprises and turns that you're not expecting, you don't want to know too much about it. So I'm not going to say too much about it other than it's a terrific ride with some great music. I mean, this is my era. Everybody loves their era's music the best, but you got to, come on, the 60s, Motown, come on. When you've got a singer like Cynthia Erivo, oh man, you're in for a real treat. Cynthia, I was, and the rest of the cast and crew were lucky enough to be around her working. All day long we'd hear these beautiful tunes coming out of her. And the soundtrack of this movie is going to be a great one. The cast, man, Chris Hemsworth, Cailee Spaeny. You got to check her out. She's really going places, this young lady. Wonderful actress. Dakota Johnson. I mentioned Cynthia already. Lewis Pullman. Oh wow, what a great treat he is. And Nick Offerman. I had a wonderful time with Nick. And then Jon Hamm. What a brilliant performance. Martin Wist, our set designer. Man, what a wonderful set. As I was saying, you've got this state line going right through the lobby of the hotel, California on one side, Nevada on the other. And the tones of these two sides of the room were very important to Drew, our director, that they represent different aspects of the film. There's a lot of metaphor hidden in all this. On the second and third viewing, a lot of stuff will come to light as you watch it. Drew Goddard, what a wonderful director, and as I said, writer. It's a real blessing to have the, writer, your director. And one of the things that I look for with directors, my favorite kind of directors to work with, are the ones that set a real kind of loose, loving vibe on the set, And Drew certainly did that. He felt very a spirit of collaboration, a gentleness, a lot of kindness just kind of shooting off of him, and that kind of makes everybody relax. And when you're relaxed, I find that your best work kind of comes out. You're up for exploring different ways of doing things, and he, was very encouraging to find out what are your ideas? How do you see this? And I loved working with him. I thought he was one of my favorites.
One of my agents had told me that this movie was happening. We couldn't have the script, so we only had sides. And I read the sides and I was like, this is awesome. So I was already excited by that. So I put myself on tape. I remember, I think I was in Chicago shooting something else. And in the middle of shooting that, I went and put myself on tape, sent it off. Then I ended up coming in and having this wonderful workshop with Drew and Carmen, the casting director. And I just remember leaving the casting room thinking, I don't know, whoever gets to do this is going to have a really great time. It felt just so lovely in the room, and they were really wonderful and helpful, and it was so creative, and I just was like, it feels like this is going to be a special thing to be a part of. She is a singer who has been through a lot, and I think she's got to a point where she needs change. She needs to be out by herself. She needs to do something that makes her feel confident. And she once had a love for music, which I think has started to wane a little bit at this point in the movie. And being away from all the things that she's had to experience when it comes to the producers she's working with, the group that she was working with, this gives her a bit of escape. So she's moved on to try and be out by herself. I think a little bit to find out who she is again on her own, to find the love of music that she had. She meets all of these very strange characters along the way in this hotel, and has to sort of bear witness to everything, I guess. He's really, truly amazing. Just a good, good person. And I always looked forward to getting on set to be with him and giving him a big hug and getting ready to just share space with him, because he's so generous that there is this wonderful energy in the room when you get to sit and do a scene with him. You can do it a million different ways, and still it always feels real and true, which is wonderful. One of the things I really loved about doing this was that I had the chance to sing in real time. So every time you see me sing in a room or wherever, it's happening in that room. I'm singing for real. There's no pre-record. And there are challenges that you come up against. You get to time 15 and you've sung it 15 times through and you do get tired, but then you figure out a way to not let go of the quality of the sound that you're trying to make. And I was really adamant that I would do that. I wanted, if we had to do 20 takes, I wanted to do the 20 takes, if we could. And we did that for everything. All of the pieces that you hear me sing live in the room, there and then. I think it's a combination of many different things. It's like I said to Drew, it feels like an alternative type of musical because there's so much music in it. But then in the same breath, it's like it's a drama, and then there is the gore in it as well. But it's just a combination of things, and sometimes I'm like I'm sometimes find myself at a loss for words to describe as exactly what it is, because I feel like it encompasses so many different things really well that I kind of just end up going, you just have to see it. You just have to see it, because it could be horror, or it could be drama, or it could be, a mystery. It's many different things, but many different very good things. When Darlene steps in, she tends to walk in on the California side, which is sort of savory and nice and sweet, and it's good. And usually it's actually akin to the color I'm wearing. It's actually yellow and orange, strangely enough. That side she matches that side. So I think that's where the innocence is. That's where the good is. In the interchange, whenever we step over into Nevada, that's when you're sort of like, that's when things are going to go wrong. For whoever's just stepped over into Nevada, that's what tends to happen.
Bad Times at the El Royale is very much the definition of a passion project. I wrote it for myself. It's that adage in screenwriting, just write what you want to see. And I just went and locked myself in a hotel room in November of 2016 and just wrote the movie that I wanted to see. I think it started from a place of love of film noir, love of crime fiction, love of classic movies, ensemble movies where you don't quite know who the protagonist is, and you get to see a bunch of movie stars in a very small space. And so I went and wrote that movie, and then went and convinced Fox to let me make that movie, and now here we are. The hotel is half in California and half in Nevada, and so we planned our design around that. We would research facts about California, research facts about Nevada, and say, okay, we don't want this to just be arbitrary. There's a difference between a hotel in California, there's a difference between a hotel in Nevada. They're not the same. So let's see if we can figure out a way to honor each state and honor not just the cosmetic differences of each state, but each of those states serves a very different purpose in our country. And certainly in 1969, they were very different. The movie is set in 1969, and the hotel has seen better days. We make a point that it was a very hustling and bustling hotel in the early 60s, and now it has fallen on hard times, and our story begins there. I like to say that the music of the movie is the eighth character of the movie. We have a jukebox set right in the center of the whole movie, right on the line, that sort of serves the voice that the chorus would serve in sort of a Greek play. And so I built the movie around that, and it was one of the most fun parts of the job, is to pick the songs and then design scenes around them. Part of writing a script is making a document that will attract the cast that you want, and you have to really look at it and say, I got to give these actors something to play. When you go to a meeting with Jeff Bridges, you have to say to him, here's a chance to play something that you've never played before. And it's really hard when you have the career that Jeff Bridges has had to come up with something. So part of that is making sure all your characters have complicated stories. And that's part of what we're trying to say with the El Royale. No one is who they appear. I had moments where I would sit around looking at our cast, looking at Jeff and Cynthia and Chris, John, Dakota, just sitting in a room with all of these heavyweights and thinking, how did I get here? I don't understand how I got to be so lucky, but it was never lost on me how special it was. When you look at Seamus's work, his work is always fearless and yet somehow feels classic at the same time. Those are two qualities I wanted this movie to have, to both feel familiar and beautiful and elegant and comfortable, and yet also bold and fearless. And that is in every frame of everything Seamus has ever shot, quite frankly. Bad Times at the El Royale was designed to play in theaters. We're shooting at Anamorphic on film for that reason. I love movie theaters. I love the communal experience. I love sitting in a movie theater and not knowing what's about to happen. And that, as much as anything, that's what I wanted to do with Bad Times. I wanted to feel that feeling when you're sitting next to somebody in a theater that you've never met before, and yet you both realize you don't know where this movie's going to go. When you hear a stranger sitting next to you laugh at the same thing that you're laughing in, there's a connection that is made that you can't replicate in your living room. Like it is as much about that as it is about the story. And I think Bad Times is aggressively about trying to give the theater goer that experience.
The movie sets itself up as looking one very specific way, and by the end of it you realize that all of that is wrong. And I think that's visually and from a character standpoint and narrative standpoint, all of those things have been significantly switched around by the time the movie ends. The El Royale sits on the border of California and Nevada, so it's half in both states. And it's the design team did an amazing, art department did an amazing job. Both sides of the hotel have kind of unique personalities and represent different things. And the sharp-eyed viewer will see that the California side is very different from the Nevada side, and different things happen on different sides of the hotel. So it very much plays with dichotomy and two sides of things, positive and negative, and I'll leave it at that. My character, Laramie Seymour Sullivan, is ostensibly a vacuum cleaner salesman, going around the country and hawking vacuums. We come to find out that he is not, or at least that's not all he is. And we see that he has a much bigger role in the story of this hotel. And then we come to find out what exactly that is. And then we come to find out that there are other people that maybe don't want him to have that role. Yeah, my character gets to do quite a lot in a short amount of time. It's got a lot of secrets, and those slowly kind of become revealed as the movie progresses, and it gets weirder and darker and scarier. Well, it's great. I've had the experience a couple times in my career of working with somebody who knows exactly what they want, because they've created this thing out of whole cloth. That was certainly the case with Baby Driver and Edgar Wright, and that's certainly the case with Matthew Weiner and Mad Men. And Drew has a lot of that in him. As a filmmaker, he knows what he wants to see in the frame, and it's our job to kind of bring that forth and make it happen. So that was great. Like, you never felt like the director, who's the chief of staff on set, you never felt like he was grasping at straws. He knew what he wanted and how to go get it. I've admired Jeff's career my whole life, and I've been a fan of his since I first saw him in, I'm gonna say Tron, but I remember seeing Last Picture Show and seeing all of his work and just being blown away, including a movie called Blown Away. I think it was called that. But yeah, I've loved his work for a long, long time, and to get a chance to work with him was a real dream come true. But I mean, I could say the same thing about pretty much everyone else in the cast. Cynthia is such a phenomenally talented woman, and Dakota and Lewis and everybody on down the line. It was a really, really fun group of people, and we're all on the same page. It was really nice. I loved the idea. Drew had clearly spent so much time thinking about this project, and his writing, the sensibility of it, and you could tell, he had listened to these songs. He had a soundtrack to it. It was very similar to what Edgar had done in Baby Driver. Like the songs were laid in there, so you really got a sense of not just the period aspect of it, but what was going to be happening when you're seeing what you're seeing on screen. And that's so tremendously helpful in setting a mood, especially even when you're reading something, because you think, oh my gosh, I can see it in my head and I can hear it in my head, and it all works out very well. I mean, sometimes in screenplays there's so much stage direction or things that you get confused by, but this wasn't that. And so I read it in like an hour and immediately said yes, and like 2 days later was on a plane. Bad Times at the Royale is just sits in a unique place. It's a thriller, it's a mystery, it's a lot of things. It's kind of a psychological thriller. It's a whodunit. You know, the movie kind of, because it's an original piece of entertainment, there isn't anything like Bad Times at the El Royale right now. It's kind of many-genred instead of just being a genre or based on a book, you play, comic book, ride, toy, what have you. I think it's an exciting challenge for moviegoers, and I think people the response I've had to the trailer so far, people have been like, that movie looks amazing.
The attention to detail and the intertwining of all of these stories, and it was completely linear and made sense, and it's so intricate, but you don't get lost, and that, I think, if you read a script and at no point you put it down or you have to figure out where you are and try to understand it more, then I think you're in a pretty good spot. Everyone has their story that you're seeing, and then everyone has their story that you're not seeing, and they're all sort of coexisting, and everything gets muddy and intertwined, and then it just kind of blows up in your face, literally. Drew is so hyper intelligent and has, even when we were in prep, he had every corner of the script completely covered, and he knows every angle of every way you could approach every single moment. There were a few scenes that it took weeks to shoot. One scene, which is so crazy. But it was amazing. It was different than anything I've ever done. It's a work of art. It's an intellectual and emotional and creative message, and it's someone's message. It's a message of the times, of the genre, but it's also up for your personal interpretation. And I think it's the more you go on, and if you see it again, the more you kind of see something you didn't realize at first, or you notice some foreshadowing in a relationship or in a conversation or in the way something is delivered or replayed or revisited. It's really so detailed. The amount of focus and attention to detail and determination that lived on set is really remarkable.
Met with Drew, and he said, it's really different from everything you've done before. Read the script, take a look, let me know. And I remember sitting down to read the script for the first time and not being able to put it down because it was just so different from anything else I'd ever been involved with, and so different from what I was expecting from Drew. And there was something so beautiful and haunting about it. And I was like, oh my God, this is really, really, really exciting. And I called Drew a couple hours after he sent me the script, and I said, all right, we should probably start. I think Drew's done such a great job of crafting something that doesn't really feel like other movies. And I think that's what makes it really fun. I think we're living in an era where movies are starting to feel more and more similar to each other. And we just kind of having a lot of movies that are similar coming out one after the other. And to have something that's really, really unique and really different, I think is going to be a really nice thing to have in the theater. I think the thing that Drew does really well is he infuses this real life to these characters and he gives them a real sense of heart. And I think that makes it really, really exciting. I think that's kind of my favorite part about working with Drew is the heart that kind of comes with it. Martin was someone that I'd never met before, but his ability to understand what Drew was after was really profound. And as we started designing the hotel, that process from the carpet, which was all custom-made carpet, to kind of capture these period patterns that existed, but in colors and shades and tones that they had not actually been made in. And the wallpapers were all custom to the movie. And I mean, even the bedspreads, every detail of that hotel was custom designed, but everything felt so lived in and so real. And I think when people watch the film and they see that hotel for the first time, I think it really takes them somewhere cool. And you really feel like you're in a place you've never been before. I love when a director comes in with a document just laying out how color is going to work in the film. Because so much of the palette of a movie can tell you things about character, about the emotions that you're supposed to feel in the film, about the way the movie's going to unfold. And I think the way Drew approached color was so robust and so specific that it really made the movie come to life right away for everybody. Jon Hamm was a really exciting choice as an actor for the film. He joined the process really late, and he brought so much energy and so much life and so much excitement and enthusiasm to the role. And I really cannot imagine anyone else in the part because he's got the look of the FBI guy. He feels like the FBI guy, but he plays that southern schmucky vacuum cleaner salesman so well with such great enthusiasm for his accoutrement that you just can't help but love him. Darlene is the character who is moral throughout. She doesn't compromise, she doesn't bend, she doesn't do the wrong thing on occasion. And as you watch the rest of the movie, everyone kind of makes compromise. Everyone else kind of makes compromises. Everyone kind of makes gray decisions. Everyone kind of makes morally challenging decisions. And Darlene just stays on the straight and narrow the whole time. He's trying to change. He's a man who's done poor, who's done bad, who's done ill, but who always wanted to do the right thing, and he's trying to find out how to do that. Dakota's character, Emily, is a tough person, and she is doing what's right for her sister. She's not necessarily going about it the right way, and you kind of see what happens as a result to her because she's making compromised decisions. But the things she's doing are brave, and she's trying to protect her sister, and she's trying to remove her sister from a bad situation. And you realize she's been protecting Rose since they were children, and she's not gonna let anything come between her and her sister. If you look at her singing in the big oneer when Laramie's going through the hallway, I think we did that 27 times, and she performed that whole thing 27 times all the way through without even flinching. And it was unbelievable to watch. And her voice lasted the whole time. And she has such a control over her voice, over the instrument that is her voice. And she just really killed it. To have such a big musical component in the film was something I was super psyched about because it's just something great about that vibe. There's something about that guy that shows up early, that stays late, that really cares, that works harder, that's on the set watching the other performers, and that just wants to be there. And you understand that that's why he's endured as a performer, and that's why he has such a legendary status, is because he loves it. And it becomes so apparent when you watch him interact with the set. There's something about like the elder statesman role that he's taken on in cinema as just this guy who's like, I'm there, and I love the work. And I love the craft, And you feel it in his performance. You feel it in the way he interacts with the crew. Jeff knows the name of everybody on the set, of everybody in the camera department, of everybody in the sound department, of everybody in the PAs and the prop department. Jeff, like everyone he interacts with, he knows their name. He cares. He takes an interest. And there's something about it that's so warm and relaxing and comforting to have that coming from your star that just sets the tone. There's something about his portrayal of Miles that is just like awesome. And I think he's a really, really great young performer. And I feel like we're really lucky to have him so early in his career in our film, because I think he's going to be a performer that we're all going to be watching for a long time, because there's just something about him that's just really full of emotion and heartbreak and humor and warmth and all these different qualities that make for an actor that can really be enduring. And I think Lewis has all those things inherent in him, and it's really cool. Dakota came in and was so formidable in how she handled the role that she was just able to just own the scenes that she's in, and it's all through very little dialogue and a ton of nuanced performance. And it's really cool to watch because she doesn't have much to say, but she just draws people out, and it really makes for a compelling character. And I think it's really going to make people see Dakota as a performer in a totally different way. When Drew and I first started talking about the film, Drew was like, as you read it, think about Chris for this Billy Lee part that kind of comes in. I think it'd be incredible. I think it'd be such a coup to get Chris for this. And I read it, and it was so unlike anything I've ever seen Chris do, and unlike any part Chris has ever really played before. But it also felt like everything that Chris should be doing, because here's this guy who's so alluring and so seductive and so like able just to like bring you into his realm and kind of pull you into his orbit and this crazy world that he lives in. But he's also like just charisma, and it's all the things Chris is great at, but like using them all for like completely different roles and a completely different vibe. And there's something about it that's so awesome watching Chris perform this part. All these things are happening that feel bigger than they are. And as a result, the movie that should just be a little character piece about people in the rain at a hotel one night is like, what did I just experience? It was big, it was bold, it was like for theaters, it was something about it that was like so alluring and crazy and unexpected and a journey and a ride and all these things. And then it hits you that it's all about heart and redemption, and you don't expect these like themes to come in. And at the end of the day, the end result of watching it is like, I felt so many different things that I wasn't expecting to feel all at once, all rolled on top of each other. That's pretty cool. We both have like a shorthand with Michael that makes it really fun to kind of dive into something like this together. And he just really brings a lot to it. You know, we've had to work very quickly with him because we've had a very short post, but his ability to craft a scene and to bob and weave and to find the emotion and to find the heart and to find the character is really unprecedented. He's really special. When you have a script that's as well written as Bad Times at the El Royale, and you have a director that cares as much about cast and it cares as much about character as Drew does, you end up with something that's unexpected and that's special and that's new and that's interesting and that's fun, because it's like, here's these great characters, here's this great writing, here's these great actors, let's just see what happens. And that makes it really fun.
When you first start to get to know him, he's kind of uncomfortable in his own skin and seems a little nervous, and you don't know exactly what he's hiding, but clearly he's kind of bubbling over and seems to be simmering and not totally in control. And as the tale continues, it's sort of like Russian nesting dolls or something. You just keep learning new layers and tiers of his, dimension as a character. Needless to say, it was pretty insane, and you acting with Jeff, it's pretty amazing. There's times where you're acting and you forget that you're acting because you get so mesmerized just watching him, and you kind of go into a fugue state and you're like, oh shit, oh my God, we're still in it. Okay, yeah, oh my God, sorry. Because he's just so captivating and so very believable in every moment, and he really throws himself entirely in. It is so detailed. Just things that, like Cailee said, will never maybe show up on camera, but as an actor, it's crazy because it makes your job so much easier, and it's almost unfair because it's like, oh my God, I'm in it. I'm here. I don't have to make believe much here. I mean, basically, you're just erasing the cameras from your periphery, and you're in it. There's nothing different from where you are to what's written in the script. So it's an incredible set. It's a movie set over one night on the border of California and Nevada, with the whole cast of these kind of allegorical American characters of that period. And it's the fan, and chaos ensues, and each character is not quite who they say they are, and there's layers upon layers upon layers hidden within the story, and each character kind of has a darkness within them and is looking for something. And I think one reason why many people will be pretty captivated by the film itself is because each character is so relatable. Part of them has something that everybody, I think, can connect to. He is so connected to each character and so invested in making sure the humanity shines through in each character. And he really feels like they're all kind of vehicles for certain parts of him that he is discovering or has discovered or is hiding and it's kind of spectacular to watch and to be a part of and to kind of work with him on and kind of like just funnel ourselves into together. It's kind of like a partnership. It really felt that way. Undoubtedly, there are going to be so many surprises in this that people just, there's no way you can expect. There's no way you can see coming. And so in that sense, it's going to be pretty riddled with all these kind of landmines that people aren't really ready for. And then on top of that, this movie has so many hidden things within it that I think what people are going to really come away from is they're going to be like, I want to watch that again.
My agent sent it along, and it was on one of those like top secret sites that you only had like 24 hours to read. So I remember being up at like 2 a.m. finishing the script, and then just freaking out in bed because I've never read anything like it. And I'm always looking for something totally opposite from what I last did. I mean, I'm very new in the industry, but this was something that I'd never done before and I didn't know if I could do. So that's always really exciting when you read a script and see a character that you're like, I have no idea if I'm going to be able to pull this off, you know. So it was a really amazing challenge to get presented. And then I went into the room and met Drew, and we had a chat, and he's just the most genuine, kindest guy you'll ever meet, and he never puts any pressure on you, and that thankfully carried through the whole entire shooting experience. And yeah, that's kind of like the short story of how it all came about. He's so sweet and super talented, and I mean, I couldn't think of anyone else better to play him. This is such a perfect role for him, just because he's such a fearless actor, and they definitely needed someone fearless to play that role, just because Billy Lee's so crazy and wacky and unpredictable. So Chris definitely went there, and that was amazing to watch. You never knew what was going to happen every time they called action. She's a really great person and terrific actress. I learned a lot from her. yeah, I'll never forget the experience. I really hope there's not a lot of people like him, but I really hope that you know, I can take this experience and pass it down to the things I do in the future. Every person on set, cast and crew, was 100% dedicated on making this the best movie. There was one in particular where we were doing this 5-minute oneer that took almost all day. Amazing shot. And poor Cynthia is singing every single take, which is insane to me. I mean, I know she's been on Broadway, so she definitely knows what she's doing, but we were all sitting there like, how is she doing this? And then every single take was on, you know? She didn't miss a beat. Sometimes we were like, is that a track playing? Like, there's no way she's singing this right now, but she was. It was incredible. Drew was very passionate about the songs. He gave me a playlist the second I got cast, and he was big on all the other cast members finding their own music that inspired them, that fit their character, and wanted to share. I would share music for him, like, I feel like this is more Rose. What do you think? And he'd write back and be like, oh, I love that. Keep it coming. So he was very hands-on with the music aspect to it. And when we were in between takes, he was always playing his playlist on a loudspeaker while we were setting up for the next shot, just to keep everybody in the mood too. One of the best things with working with Drew is that he definitely put it out there that we could try whatever we wanted, and there was no, even though a lot of the shots were very specific and he had a set mind on what he wanted that to be, he was very open on what the characters' choices were, and it felt like a playground and a free space to try whatever we wanted to do, and there was no wrong answers, which was, I mean, it's a dream to work like that as an actor. Just be like, try whatever you want.